So today we have a guest who is a talent actor. He's got a PhD in psychology. He's an author.
The main thing that really creeps up in a lot of us is fear. And it's fear of failure and fear of success. There's no such thing as failure, only feedback. Fear of success is a major factor as to why someone might sabotage or not reach their fullest potential. If we could just get out of our own way, how much more successful can all of us be? One of the biggest addictions to the human condition is comfort.
Happy birthday to you. Hey everybody, welcome back to this episode of the No Half Cakes podcast. My name is Jim Sabellico, and this is a full-length episode. We have a very special guest today who I'll be introducing in a minute. If you're new here, just a quick rundown. On Wednesdays, we have a full-length version of the show. We sit down with a guest who's done some stuff in life, and we talk about the good, the bad, the ugly. Saturdays, I do what's called a strategy sprinkle. It's a short format version of the show just to give you a helpful, positive perspective. And Mondays, we do Mindset Monday, which is to help get you started on the week with a good, positive mindset to help you win the week. So today, we have a guest who is a talent actor. He's got a PhD in psychology. He's an author and someone who's going to share with us a bit about just how to deal with some self-sabotage and some confidence and really get the best out of your life. So without further ado, Mr. Albert Bramante, pleasure to meet you, sir.
Excellent. Nice to meet you too, Jim. And thank you again for inviting me to be on. I'm really excited to be here and to talk about the work I do and to answer any questions that you might have. So to reiterate, I am a talent agent, which means I represent actors full-time for film, TV, theater, commercial print, and voiceover in New York City. I have an office in New York City. I've been doing this for about 20 years now. In addition to that, I have a PhD in psychology. I teach at a community college, and I also just completed a book called Rise Above the Script, which deals with confronting self-doubt, mastering self-sabotage for performing artists. And I'm really excited about that. And the goal for me to write the book was to really help performers or really anybody deal with self-doubt and self-sabotage, because it's something that affects everyone, not just actors and not just performers. And that was the main crux of the reason why I decided to write that book.
Yeah, it's definitely a much needed thing. It's a topic that I talk about with a lot of people. Up to and including my own kids. Even on the sports field or in school, they can get themselves psyched out about a certain topic, whether it's a test or a performance or whatever it might be. That voice inside your head, once you start to have that conversation, can build up very quickly. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how to apply that and maybe a tactical tip someone might use to sort of combat that if they're going through that right now.
Yeah, well, the main thing that really creeps up in a lot of us is fear. And it's fear of failure and fear of success. And the one mind shift tip that I like to impart is that there's no such thing as failure, only feedback. And so even if you don't get the outcome that you desire, whether it be the actor doesn't, land the role, or, you go on a job interview, you don't land a job, it's still a learning experience for you. It is not a failure. It is a learning experience. It's feedback for you to improve for the next time. Then there's also fear of success, which a lot of, we don't really talk about that much. And it's really not as known as fear of failure. But fear of success is a major factor as to why someone might sabotage or not reach their fullest potential. And it really roots to a fear of change. These human beings were wired for routine, comfort, luxury. And we fear change because change can be considered dangerous. Especially to our subconscious, our deeper mind, change is danger, change is uncomfortable. And so we'll do anything to mitigate or make ourselves comfortable by staying safe and not changing and not really reaching for those lofty goals that we have. And a lot of times that can relate to just not reaching our full potential, or not really doing everything that we intend to do or set out to do, or what we're capable of doing. And so that's the mission of my book, was like, if we could just get out of our own way, how much more successful can all of us be? And I think a lot more, tremendously a lot more.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And for me, I've always been sort of the mindset of, you know, if you want to call it exposure therapy, where if you're afraid of change, sort of start introducing change to be a normal part of your day, where you get a little bit more, quote unquote, used to it, and it doesn't become as upsetting anymore. But I don't have any, I don't have a PhD in psychology to back that up. Is that a valid technique that someone might use?
It's widely known. I mean, there are some controversies around it. As far as like phobias, it is one of the best forms of treatment for phobias, is to really just face your fear. Now, of course, you do it in gradual steps. You don't just put someone out right in facing their danger. You do it slowly in gradual little steps. So like, let's say someone has a dog phobia, for example. Now you're not going to put them face to face with a dog at the beginning. You might show them pictures of a dog or videotapes of a dog. And then once they're comfortable with that, then maybe, putting them in the same room with a dog, but has a major distance. And then bringing the dog closer and closer. To eventually, the goal is to have the person have positive interaction with the dog. That's an example of what exposure therapy will look like. So sometimes the only way to really, I guess you want to say, get over our fears is to face it. But we do that in gradual, small steps. One thing I talk a lot about in my book is stepping outside your comfort zone. Doing something, even if it's a small thing, daily, that might make you a little uncomfortable. Because when there's uncomfortability, that's when there's the most growth. When we're more comfortable in what we're doing. Uncomfortable, in a sense. So when we become uncomfortable, that can be a great thing, and embrace it.
Yeah. I agree with that 100%. I think most of success and growth comes from being outside your comfort zone, right? And building up the tolerance for being uncomfortable. I think the people who achieve the most in life are the people who continually find ways to push themselves outside of staying in their comfort zone.
Of course. And almost any successful person has, been very uncomfortable at one point, and they're still pushing that limit, and they're putting on a smile, but they're still doing it. And that's what makes them more successful, is that they're willing to step outside what feels safe. Because, one of the biggest addictions to the human condition is comfort. It's staying routine. It's what would feel safe, safety and comfort. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of growth when we're comfortable and safe. And we could stay the same way. And there's, one of the biggest things of regret, in life is not what mistakes someone makes. It's opportunities that were missed. They've done studies where they've interviewed people on their deathbed. And the biggest thing that really causes the most pain is not the mistakes they made, or not the foolish decision they made. It's the opportunities that they missed, that they didn't take a chance to do that. They had the opportunity to do it, but they didn't do it. And so at this point, hopefully a message that I myself and a lot of other, self-help authors and gurus talk about is, don't get at that phase yet. So there's a lot of different factors there that can happen.
How important do you consider faith to be in that component of dealing with success and failure and your comfort zone, and understanding that, hey, that thing that might be a quote unquote failure today is going to eventually work out in your favor?
Faith is vital. It is extremely vital. And, whether it's, and this could be a non-secular issue. It could be wherever you have faith in, even just faith in yourself. And having faith in and trust in yourself, because that's what really faith is. Faith is a synonym for trust. And so you just have to have trust in yourself and trust in, other people. Yeah, and trust in the universe in a sense that, things it will work out in the end. And that's just a faith you have to do every day.
Yeah. What about what I like to call a post-game recap? So let me give you a little bit more information on that. So for me, one of the things I like to do is anytime I go through a failure of some kind, we talk about this is what went wrong and then eventually what went right, and look at the history of times that either there's been a business failure or a life failure, and you look at it in the moment as, oh my God, this is the worst thing to ever happen. And then 6 months down the road, you look at it and you connect the dots. You figure out if this thing didn't happen that at the time I thought was terrible, would not have led me here, and look at all the good that's come of this. So for me, I make a routine of looking back and finding the good from all the bad. And personally, what it's helped me to do is when I'm sitting in a situation where there is a problem or something is wrong or something's bad, I've got a history to look back on that says, man, every time I've done this before, in 6 months from now, I'm going to look back at this and say, oh yeah, but all the good comes from this eventually. And so it builds up that sort of expectation that this might suck now, but in the future, I'm going to appreciate it.
Yeah. This was the best thing that could have ever happened to you. And that's the whole thing too, is, some of our worst experiences are actually our best experiences, because we've grown and we've learned and we've adapted and become stronger. And, what stresses us now, 6 months from now, most of the time it's going to be non-existent. The stresses that we have at this moment, and I even tell, some of those, my clients or my students, is to write a journal. What are the things that you fear today or that you're stressing about at this moment? And then maybe a year from now, take out that journal. And most of it, I can guarantee you'll be laughing at, saying, oh, it wasn't a big deal. Or that's the past, or, it worked out. It worked itself out. Now temporarily, it may not be the outcome that you want or most desire, but it's still going to be a stepping stone. The popular saying, one door closes, another one opens. And that's so true. Whether, even if it's losing a job or, losing ending a relationship. Well, now that's opening yourself up for some greater things down the line. And just having that faith that something better will be there, but also working towards that.
Yeah. How important do you think it is to have a tribe or a community around you of people who can support you and give you a shoulder to lean on during that time?
It is vital. I'm a big, I listen to Tony Robbins and Jim Rohn and all of those people, and they advocate that the peer group that you hang out with, the sum of the 5 people, you are the 5 people you hang out with. So your tribe is so important. Even in my book, when I work with actors, my book, I discuss in detail that the associations you keep, if you hang out with out of work bitter actors, you're going to become bitter too and out of work. But if you hang out with people that are more successful than you are, that are maybe slightly above your ability, that's going to get you to work harder. And that's going to propel you to the next level.
Yeah, strongly agree. So speaking of the book, I'd love to know more about the book and kind of what your motivation was for writing it, and share a little bit of the backstory behind starting that up.
Sure. Well, I started around 2004, 20 years ago. I've been working in the talent representation business, and when I first started, what was not connecting was that on one level, I was getting these actors that I was working with that were telling me, or really conveying how much they wanted to work and how much this meant to them, but yet, what was the disconnect was that, when auditions came in or when jobs came up, there was always excuses not to go, or they would blow them off or not show up. And that's what is, popular saying, success, 80% of success is just showing up. That's what Woody Allen said, right? Woody Allen. So a lot of my, clients that I was working with at the time were not showing up on auditions or blowing them off or always having excuses to why they couldn't do it. And I couldn't figure this out, because these are the same people that are telling me they'll do anything to get a job. So there was a major disconnect there. And that's why I started to figure out something is happening here. These actors are our own worst enemy. And nobody was really talking about it at that time. It was kind of like, foreign. So I was like, I should do something here. So I was also at the time going for my doctorate, my PhD. We had to do this dissertation, and the goal of a dissertation was one of my advisors indicated to solve a real world problem that you're facing. And that was one of them. So, I did the doctoral dissertation, which was original. And then I figured I should really do something to write this, get this to lay people, get this to an audience, a wide audience, rather than just an academic audience. I wanted to get this out to actors and maybe do something that would help them. And so the book has been about a 4 to 5 year process from the start and stops and just redoing it and putting it together. And so that's the backstory of the book, in a sense. That's my reason of doing it. And my hope is just, again, to get, for actors to get out of their own way, or even other professionals, get out of your own way and really be mentally on top of your game. Now, part of acting, a lot of acting success goes through training. Now, this book is not acting training because I'm not an actor. I don't train actors specifically in technique. That's where an acting conservatory comes in. However, I'm about the mental game, your mental game and your mental process. And if you really are 100% up here, your success is going to be dramatically increased. Your training that you actually get is going to be easy to apply. And that's my whole thesis of that book. Get rid of that chatter. Also, the language that we use to ourselves is so important. How we talk to ourselves and how we talk to other people. Like, I'm very big on, how you communicate to the outside world. Like I tell actors, never use the word starving artist. Never use the word struggling actor in your vocabulary or even vernacular, so to speak, because that signifies that things are going to be tough. And also, don't tell yourself. Always tell yourself you're a professional working actor. When you have the training, and even if you've done community theater, that's still a job. That you're still a professional actor. And that's with anybody. You're a professional. You're a young professional. You're not aspiring to be anything. You are that. And that's the whole thing too, is getting that out of that word, those negative words out of our vocabulary, because words are incredibly powerful. Language is incredibly powerful.
Yeah. There's a tremendous amount to be said for the power of positive self-talk and the words you choose to talk about yourself. How you refer to a situation is sort of how you're going to view it. I think there's a lot of alignment there too with manifestation and manifesting the future that's going to come, forward with that. If you believe it's going to be hard, if you believe you're a struggling artist, you're going to struggle. If you believe that you are a successful artist, you believe that you are whatever it is, you're going to see it from that lens, and it's going to be a lot easier road for you. So I agree 100%. I think it makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So talk to me a little bit about balancing being, a talent agent versus the psychology part. How do those fit together? Because to me, I don't know a whole lot about the talent space, but to me, it seems like a sort of unique combination there. And I think you're able to probably better serve the people you work with for that reason.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it is extremely important, to balance both. Now, I don't necessarily, this talent, agency is my full-time love. So I don't really do much other stuff rather than just work with actors. But I do feel like I'm able to talk to actors, understand them a little bit more efficiently. Like some of the other agents I work with might get annoyed with certain actor behaviors or quirks. For me, that I actually embrace because I understand what's going on. I know what's going on. And I think sometimes it just helps me connect with the artist more efficiently. Like I said, I don't really do much except, maybe write and teach part-time. But I as far as the other business, because like I said, talent agent, part of it consumes most of it, not all of my day-to-day life. And I love what I do, but it's also, very, very time-consuming.
How much of that do you think is the human component? And to clarify that, I mean, really understanding the people you work with at the human level and who they are. I think if you understand them and their core motivations, is it easier to find success for them?
It just it helps me connect when I know someone's core values and core meaning. It helps me. I think it's good to develop rapport, that way. So I really get to know what their value is, and then I'll understand why they, kind of like why they behave or why they're interacting in a certain way. And that will help me guide my interaction to suit that. So I think that's really important to have that understanding of human behavior and just why people react the way they do. Whereas, again, some of my colleagues might find certain works annoying or frustrating, and I think it's because they don't really understand also. So I think just having an understanding helps a great deal.
Agree. And what about the flip side of that? So for someone who's done the work themselves and really understands who they are, what motivates them, understands their own pain points, understands their own motivations, how much more successful do you think that person is for having done the work?
I think incredibly more successful, because then they start realizing any patterns that may be holding them back, any subconscious or dysfunctional patterns of relating to other people or even relating to themselves. I mean, it's even a core thing about relationships. Even if we go outside of this to know about relationships, a lot of people engage in dysfunctional patterns in relationships and not know why, or not have the insight to know what's going on. They just keep getting involved in dysfunctional relationship after another. And that doesn't have to be romantic. It could be familial. It could be, business. But they keep getting that circle, that hamster wheel circle, just dysfunctional relationship after dysfunctional relationship, without the proper insight to know how are they contributing to that, and what's drawing them. And I think once person has that insight as to what's going on, they're able to pinpoint any dysfunctional patterns that are happening, and they're able to stop, work to stop that or any triggers, because most of us act, when we're triggered, whether you've been positive trigger or a negative trigger. Like someone smiles at us, we smile back. The trigger. And once we understand what's happening or what's triggering us, we can then choose how to respond. And I think when you have that insight about yourself, you're more empowered to make more positive and proper decisions. And I think that's going to lead much more to success.
Yeah, I would strongly agree. So I have a couple additional questions I'd love to ask. Number one would be, if you had one bit of advice to give someone today to have them live a slightly better life, whether that be to inspire them, to motivate them, to help deal with fear of failure, fear of success, what would that one bit of advice be?
Remember why you're here. Why are you doing it? What's your purpose of doing this? And stay true to that. Whether for an actor, whether it's changing the world or inspiring other people through your art. And because I work with a lot of actors saying that thing, like they're into this sort of positive storytelling. And so remember, every time they hear feedback that they moved an audience member, or that they, someone was moved by performance, keep a document of all the good things that happened to you. And pull that out even at moments when you're having that self-doubt. And it'll remind you why you're here. The big piece of advice I have is remember what's your motivation for doing this, and really, maintain and hold on to that.
It's a really good one. So my last question, this wouldn't be the No I Have Cakes podcast if we didn't talk about cake a little bit. I have to ask, what is your favorite flavor of cake?
I would have to say probably red velvet.
Good choice. Is there a good memory associated with red velvet?
Maybe, I don't know. I just, and actually I don't remember trying it as a kid. I just remember as an adult. I was like, oh, this is really good. This is really, well, and what about your favorite cake?
Oh, that's a good question. For me, I would go probably chocolate peanut butter. It's a good combination for me.
Great.
Yeah. Well, listen, Albert, I really sincerely appreciate this time together in the conversation. I learned a lot about the power of self-talk and motivation and how to keep moving forward, facing your fear of failure, your fear of success. Any last words, or maybe where people could find you if they want to purchase your book or work with you?
Yeah, you can connect with me on Instagram at Dr. Al Bramante. That's Dr. DRALBRAMANTE at Dr. Al Bramante. or you can find me on Facebook as just Albert Bramante. I'd love to connect or LinkedIn and chat with you.
I appreciate that. So thank you again for joining us here, and hope you have a great rest of your day.
Okay, thank you again.